Hey, I'm Creech and this is Creech and Cars, where I talk about car news, history, and culture. Today, we're going to be taking an early look at the Hyundai Ioniq 9, an all-new upcoming 3-row SUV that will be the flagship model for Ioniq, Hyundai's electric sub-brand. Back in 2021, Hyundai revealed the Ioniq Concept 7, which the Ioniq 9 is certainly based on, but more so from a general design perspective, as the Concept 7 was a very futuristic, visionary concept rather than a near-production concept. The square LED lights were the main feature throughout the blocky exterior, with details like the welcoming sequence showing the importance lighting will have in the future of car design. Much of the exterior doesn't look too dissimilar from other Hyundai Ioniq models that have made it to production, and there's also some subtle Genesis design cues, especially past the C-pillar. The Concept 7 was fully autonomous, so the interior was made to be closer in form and function to a living room than a cockpit. There are everyday niceties like a mini fridge and more storage than you can ask for in a car. But in a practical sense, I think Hyundai could use this interior as inspiration for a production interior that offers the conveniences typically only found on minivans or ultra luxury cars, like that mini fridge or something like a built-in vacuum and other handy features to keep the interior neat and clean. Hyundai plans on fully unveiling the production model this summer, so while we don't have all the official details, there are a few things we can use to put together a solid idea of what the Ioniq 9 will be like come production. First of all, this will be the sister car to the Kia EV9, and in this sense the Ioniq 9 and EV9 will essentially be the electric versions of the Palisade and Telluride. The production model was initially called the Ioniq 7, but it has recently been reported that Hyundai will likely call it the Ioniq 9, so that's how I'll refer to it in this video. The exterior of the Ioniq 9 will have a lot in common with the Concept, especially with the front and rear fascias, all within the dimensions of the EV9. The Ioniq 9 has been spied out on the road with heavy camouflage, but all things considered, we do have enough information to put together some renderings of what the finished product should look like. The large upright front end features a full-length light bar with a grille-shaped portion below that is straddled by the large headlights comprised of those little square LEDs that are becoming a sort of trademark for the Ioniq brand. The front fenders have a good flare to them, but the rear has a larger flared hip design that was seen on the Concept. The Concept had digital side view mirrors, but don't expect to see that make it to the production model. Instead, we just have the traditional glass mirrors. The rear end should feature a similar light bar to the one found on the Ioniq 5, with the possible addition of the vertical lights up the pillars, more like what was seen on the Concept, where the lights sort of trace the entirety of the rear glass. Obviously, the interior will be quite different from the Concept 7, but it likely won't stray too far from the Kia EV9. This interior is much more minimalistic than the near luxury Telluride, and we can probably expect the same from the Ioniq 9 based on some spied shots of the interior. The interior should be pretty boring, like most of the other EVs on the market, and while the Ioniq 9 will have a lot of its functionality centered around the large digital gauge cluster and infotainment screen, there are at least quite a few physical buttons and controls, so that is nice, but let me know what you think about this interior in the comments below. While I do much prefer the interior of the Palisade, one advantage the Ioniq 9 will have over the gas-powered model is the increase in interior space. The Ioniq 9 will have plenty of space to comfortably seat 6 to 7 passengers, and the lower floor will certainly increase legroom over the Palisade, along with having ample cargo room even behind the third row. Underneath it all, the Ioniq 9 will be based on Hyundai's eGMP platform, which is shared with the EV9, as well as all other Hyundai and Kia electric vehicles. The performance specs should be largely similar to the EV9. Hyundai is targeting 300 miles of range from a liquid-cooled 99.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack. We don't know much about the specifics of the powertrain, but the EV9 comes standard with one rear-mounted motor that makes 215 horsepower. there is an optional dual-motor all-wheel drive powertrain that totals 379 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. The Ioniq 9 should come with similar specs and options to that, and as with the EV9, I think most people who buy the Ioniq 9 would opt for that more powerful dual-motor setup, as it really just seems like the better value. The EV9 has about 8 inches of ground clearance, so the Ioniq will likely be similar, although Hyundai is planning on Kia being the more rugged version of the two. Hyundai will do the official reveal at the Busan International Mobility Show this June, and the model will go on sale later in 2024 as a 2025 model year. The EV9 starts at $56,000, and the Ioniq 9 is expected to start around the $50,000 mark and go up to around $70,000. Hyundai plans on building the Ioniq 9 at its new plant in Georgia, so unlike previous Hyundai EVs, the Ioniq 9 should qualify for the $7,500 federal tax credit. The final question here is, can the Ioniq 9 be the smash hit SUV that the Palisade was, but this time in the EV world? Industry-wide, there's a lot of hesitation around going all in on fully electric vehicles, but Hyundai seems to be plugging along with its scheduled releases, mostly targeting the Asian and North American markets. I think the Ioniq 9 or 7, whatever it ends up being called, is a decent 3-row SUV on paper, and Hyundai has a reputation of bringing a great value proposition for many of its models, and that reputation has carried over to the group's EVs. However, I do have one major concern for this model, and that is simply the size of the market. I'm just not sure there are enough 3-row SUV shoppers right now who would opt for a fully electric vehicle. Compounding this issue is the inherent similarities between the Ioniq 9 and EV9. No matter what Hyundai does to try to separate the two vehicles, that will make these models incredibly prone to cannibalization. The Palisade and Telluride are able to overcome this struggle through the sheer size of the market for gas-powered family SUVs. But for the electric models, at least for the time being, this will be the main challenge for the Hyundai group to overcome. So there's everything we know so far about the Hyundai Ioniq 9, Hyundai's upcoming flagship electric SUV. Let me know what you think about the Ioniq 9 in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. To see more like it, check out the rest of the channel and subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.